relation to the colours. But let's take it away, please. Thank you. Please be seated. It's normally a signal when Mr. Murdy appears wearing a suit that it is Sports Colours Days, but today he's wearing some brown corduroys and a red jumper, so I'd like to invite up the Director of Athletics to lead us in our colours ceremony.
Should I be taking fashion tips from this guy here?
I dressed up.
There's always a first. Welcome to today's colors, or sport colors. For those that are new to the school, we do this 3 times a year. We do it at the conclusion of each term. And they're for junior and senior students, which I'll explain in a little bit. But to start things off, we like to traditionally have a guest speaker just to put everything into context a little bit. So, just a quick introduction for our guest speaker. You know her as the House Director of Strathcona. You may know her as a teacher. You may know her as your rowing coach. You may know her as your advisor. But before Julie, as we know Mrs. Platt, started her career in education, she was an athlete. As a junior-aged athlete, she competed in the Canada Games and at the World Junior Rowing Championships. Then her career took her to the University of Victoria, where she was a varsity athlete, and later she would row at the Pan American Games, the World Student Games, the World Rowing Championships, and then it all culminated with representing Canada in both the 1992 and 1996 Olympic Games. So it's my great pleasure to introduce Mrs. Platt.
I was just going to stand up here and talk about all the events I went to, so I don't know what I'm going to talk about now. Anyway, as you know, my name is Mrs. Platt, and I am the current House Director of Strathcona. I'm a teacher at the Learning Centre, and I'm a rowing coach. I'm also a rower, and I have been for 38 years. I grew up on and around the water, so swimming and messing around in boats, rowboats, sailboats, logs is something I did at a very young age. I got to start rowing when I was in grade 10, and by the time I retired from competition, I'd been all over the world. It was one heck of a ride. I rowed in world-beating crews, rubbed shoulders with royalty, and I even got a kiss on the cheek from Fidel Castro when he presented our medals at the Pan Am Games in Cuba. From the ages of 15 to 26, my sport allowed me to experience the best times of my life. My sport also taught me the hardest lesson, and for that, I am forever grateful. I'm here today to talk about the value of sport. I've given the topic considerable thought. So why do we do sport? Well, to be healthy. We exercise to get the heart pumping, to live longer and better, to feel good, to look good, to eat more. There are all sorts of reasons to run, cycle, CrossFit, swim, walk, pump iron, and so on. I try to start my day with a workout. It makes me feel better. Exercise is important. It's a worthy pursuit. But what about sport? Why do we play games? Why do we compete? Well, teamwork. We all know that we're supposed to be team players, and I would wager that on any resume, employers are looking for some sort of reference to being able to work with others. There is immense value in getting together with a group of people and trying to complete a task as effectively as possible within a set of guidelines. Then you have a competition and see how you compare. Afterward, the teammate takes any lessons it learned, shores up any weaknesses or holes in its performance, and then compares itself to another team. What employer wouldn't value these abilities? To take lessons learned, assess how things could be done better, to support your teammates, to help everyone perform their best? Those skills are immensely valuable. Belonging. I got a math degree at university. This is not a knock on mathematicians, but I didn't actually know or want to know anyone in my classes. To use a math term, my classmates and my friend group were mutually exclusive sets, meaning there was no crossover between the two. If I was not on the rowing team, I would have had a very hard time finding my people. To use another math term, my friend group and the rowing team were subsets of each other. By being a rower, I had a group of low-maintenance friends. This was a group of people I would see every day. We did not need to phone each other. We didn't have to make dates. We didn't have to plan things. We just knew we would spend every morning together. To this day, I can still get together with my teammates I rowed with decades ago, and it's like we're still in our 20s. I retired from competitive rowing in 1996. 22 years later, a group of teammates and I made a bid to win the Senior Master 8 race at the head of the Charles. We took this pretty seriously. We were world beaters in the 90s, and we weren't willing to suck as old people. That summer, we met up in Strathcona Park with our families and put in a week of hard training on the lake, and we seamlessly fit together. The team dynamics that worked for us years ago were still relevant. We had fun, we trained hard, we laughed, we remembered how good we were, and we worked hard to be as good as we could be at our present stage of life. And a couple of months later, we won our event. We made it look easy, but there is no way that any group of middle-aged women, no matter how talented or fit, could have accomplished that without a history of working together as a cohesive unit and believing and trusting each other. But before I tell you about the best things sport has given me, I need to give you a little more background. The summer before I started rowing, I went to Los Angeles to watch a family friend row at the 1984 Olympics. While I was there, I knew that rowing was a sport I wanted to do, and that fall, a rowing program started at my high school. By the time I graduated, I was a medalist at the Canada Games, a high school national champion, a two-time medalist at the Junior World Championships. I had the great fortune to grow up on the Saanich Peninsula, a hotbed of Canadian rowing, surrounded by great coaches, excellent facilities and equipment, and limitless opportunities. I went to the University of Victoria, was part of a powerhouse program, and by age of 21, I had placed fourth at the Senior World Rowing Championships. 2 years later, I was on the cusp of racing at the 1992 Olympics, but was taken out of the crew at the last minute to make way for an athlete whose rise to the top was meteoric, but plagued by injury. Finally healthy, she raced for and won my seat. In that seat, she and the crew went on to win an Olympic gold medal. I watched from the sidelines, sobbing. I was immensely proud of all my teammates, but I was also heartbroken. However, I was still really young, and I was entirely motivated to row hard for the next 4 years and win my Olympic medal. Pretty much all my friends had one, so how hard could it be? Well, 3.5 years later, my coaches read me the final results of selection, and I was the 5th fastest starboard rower, meaning I was not in the 8, because there's only 4 starboards in there. After being the veteran of the team, the leader, the spokesperson, I was once again a spare. This was devastating news. I don't think I've ever felt so sick. For days I was gripped in depression where I couldn't get out of bed. What was the point? However, aware that sometimes late selection and injuries happen, I formed a solid partnership in a pair with Michelle, the portside spare, and we went out to prove that the selectors made the wrong decision. We were fast. We frequently went faster than our teammates who were selected to the 8, and we believed that we would get our chance to get back into the crew. Late selections happened at the last Olympics, so it would happen again, right? Only this time, I would win my seat, not lose it. But we were never given that opportunity. Am I mad about that? Kinda. Did I deserve a chance? Sure, but no one owed me that opportunity. I didn't perform when it mattered, so I was in no position to point to all the times I did perform because those times didn't count. Despite acing a whole lot of quizzes, I failed to perform on the big exam, and because of that, I failed to make the crew. Sounds familiar, right? Life is like that. For the second straight Olympics, I watched my teammates win an Olympic medal. This time it was a silver one. With a fair bit of bitterness, I gave up on my dream of an Olympic medal and I retired from rowing. That September, I started working at Shawnigan Lake School. They needed a rowing coach, and I knew a lot about rowing. They needed an assistant in Kay's house, and I needed a place to live. They needed a math teacher, and I had a math degree. They also didn't want unmarried couples to live together, so Mr. Platt and I got married. I would never have found my career as a teacher if I hadn't rowed. I also wouldn't have found Mr. Platt. Which leads me to one of the most valuable things about sport. It is a safe space where we can take risks, try and succeed, or fail, and fail hard. You see, I have lived a blessed life. I have had security, safety, a loving family, and no trauma. I am someone who, if I never did sport, might not understand or be able to cope with failure or hardship. I found a sport I liked, and I set some pretty lofty goals in that sport. I achieved many of those goals, had amazing experiences, but I also experienced the most terrible losses. Through something as inconsequential as sport, I learned what it was like to fail. I found out what it was like to not achieve something that was incredibly important to me, the thing I had been working towards for 8 years, 2 Olympic cycles. I found out that despite excellent preparation, you can only control so much, and even the best athletes in the world need some luck to be the best. I learned how hard it is to keep going when you failed. I've learned what depression feels like, though mine only lasted a few days. I learned all these hard lessons through sport. No one's life was in danger, no one's livelihood was threatened, no one's health was compromised. In the long run, and even in the short run, it didn't matter. Although success in rowing was super important to me, it was only a game. Years later, you realize how unimportant the final outcome is. I could say that I sacrificed years for my sport for nothing. But I don't believe that for a second. I didn't sacrifice anything for rowing. Instead, rowing was an investment, and the returns on that investment are extensive. Lifelong friendships, my husband, a love of and appreciation of my body and what it can do, resilience, perspective, compassion, health, a career, and it has also given me my story. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Julie, for that compelling, honest, and inspiring story. And you are an inspiring coach and role model to our students. What you omitted to say was that you also, earlier this term, again won the head of the Charles with your crew, and that you were only 1 second off the record. So there's incentive enough for you to get back there and claim that record with your crew. I'm just going to flag up a few students before we move to the colours who Mr. Murdy wrote to the heads of sport yesterday to say, are there any people who we want to sort of highlight for their high performance achievements in relation to December and the new year? And I'm going to read out this list. Don't clap once I do. At the end, we're going to ask them to stand up, and then we'll do what we do best at Shawnigan and really show our appreciation of their dedication and success and wish them luck. A number of our students have made commitments to universities to play their sports in both the States and Canada, and that information continues to roll in. It's incredibly exciting. Arnika Bulmer has been selected to Team Yukon for the Canada Winter Games. Abby Whitworth and Morgan Jackson have been selected to the top 26 for the final selection camp for Team BC, again for the Canada Winter Games. Ava Ferrance, Aidan Jones, and John T. Nicholas have all been selected to the BC under-18 sides that are going to New Zealand to compete in the World School Sevens rugby tournament this December. And Ashley Mack has been selected to the Hong Kong under-21 national field hockey team that's competing in the Asian Games in the new year. Please, could those athletes stand up? Is Aidan in there? Aidan? Ask Aidan to come out. Aidan. Was that it? Was that a momentary glimpse of Aidan on the live streaming? Okay, over to you, Mr. Murdy.
Thank you, Mrs. Platt, and congratulations to all those individuals that they had just recognized, that we all also recognized with a nice round of applause. This is a pretty special place, and we have a lot of accomplishments happening on a daily basis, whether it be in the classroom, in the drama area, musically, but certainly it happens daily in the sporting arenas. So that's why it's important that we celebrate this, not just for the outstanding achievements and the performances, but the lessons, the values, all the hard work that goes in that you heard from Mrs. Platt's story. That's what makes sports so special. So again, this is all part of that journey for you as young athletes. I'm quite confident that many, many more will be recognized throughout the year, but also those being recognized today have many chapters to carry on to write in their athletic journey, which I'm excited to be a spectator at and to brag about you guys when you're off winning Olympic medals or Stanley Cups or all those different things that are out there for you to try and strive to achieve. With our colors, so as I mentioned at the start, they're awarded to both juniors, so at the grade 10 and senior grade 12 levels only. For juniors, you will receive your first nomination today, those that are nominated. In order to receive your colors pin, you need to receive 2 different nominations. So some of you will receive your junior pins after the term or at the term 2 colors assembly. Senior is a little bit different. We have ties. We have a single colors tie with 1 stripe, double colors tie with 2 stripes, and a triple colors tie with 3 stripes. Yeah, you guys are good. They are those math students you were talking about, Mrs. Platt. All these guys. So it's a pretty special accomplishment for a senior athlete. Double colors happens occasionally. Triple colors is a rarity, and it's something that's a very special accomplishment and certainly a great reflection on that student, their love for sport, their commitment to sport, and also in their ability to compete in sport. So the coaches need to nominate athletes. They send them to my office, and there's a discussion, and we look at a bunch of criteria. We look at their commitment and skill. We look at ensure that they've demonstrated sportsmanlike behavior throughout the season of play, that they've displayed leadership within their groups, and that they have a positive and competitive attitude to both practice and competition. So the way it'll work is I'll call out the sport and I'll ask the coaches or the coach, depending on the sport, to come up to the stage to help with the head and the assistant of athletics, Mrs. Conroy, to present the ties. So we're going to start off with volleyball. So if Mr. Colton is in the room, if he could please come on up to join us. Okay, just a quick note. Obviously, everybody is looking very sharp in their Christmas colors, but for today, because we want to make sure that when this is something that you can look back on and your kids can look back on, your parents can look back on, that you're looking sharp in school uniform. So for today, we won't be doing photos. We'll be doing a group photo in Marion Hall, probably in the next day or two, with all the color award winners. So, receiving senior colors for volleyball are Sarah Bagley, Sylvie Boschman, and Ava Ferentz. Please come on forward. We're now going to do field hockey, so we have them on stage, the senior coaches, Mrs. Conroy and Mr. Lamont. Receiving junior colors, so their first nomination are Emma Hill, Amelia Call, Florentine von Falkenhahn, and receiving their senior colors tie, Emma Bishop, Ashley Mack, Ilani Surstep Perk, and a nice round of applause for those three, please. For squash, we don't need a coach up here because there's only juniors that are being recognized today, receiving their first nomination. So receiving their first nomination in squash, Jasper Creed, Eva Guy, Ryan Quinn, Stephen Z, Yumi Lee, Joyce Liu, and Ivana Wu. If they can all please stand, please.
Invite them in up to hand them out.
For cross country, can Mr. Swano please join us up here? Affectionately known as Swanee. Receiving their first nomination for juniors in cross country, Riley Bulmer, Saku Ishimoto, and Hansa Trizicki. Receiving their senior colors tie, Ethan Hahn, Brian Park, Izzy Monty Chappell, and Miranda Fairley. Well done, Swanee. For soccer, if Ms. Salzberg and Mr. Sturrock could please join us up front here, that'd be great. Not sure, oh, yep, there they are. Receiving their first nomination, junior nomination for soccer, so that they'll require two, obviously, as mentioned. Sebastian Umaravilla, Mac Balderson, Bruno Fulton, Pascal Ganoza, Pablo Garcia Hernando, Thomas Klassen, and Otis Parker. We can have a nice round of applause for them. Receiving their senior colors tie, so please come forward, Luca Amorescar, Henri Gave, Zylo Green, Ethan Hunt, and Rudy Tisende. Thank you. And our final nomination in rowing, so a junior, the first nomination in rowing goes to Catherine Young. So we can have a nice round of applause for Catherine. Okay, I know everybody's excited. They want to rush up to the arena, all those classes, to support the Dev squad in their opening game. I know all you academic teachers are very excited to take your classes up there to support the boys, so we look forward to see you up there. Maybe. That's it for our Colors Assembly. I'd just like to congratulate all the award winners and also thank all the coaches for all their efforts in Term 1. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Murdy. One little growl from me as head. There have been reports in the last couple of days of some absolute, maybe introduce some of you to a new word, nincompoops in our community, of people who have been stupid enough to walk across Lake Omar on the ice. And I strongly do not recommend that, but you could end up with a very unpleasant, watery death. Absolutely no student should be daring to cross the ice. Very, very stupid. I think you've had that message from your house directors. Absolutely not done at Shawnigan, and showing a complete naivety and ignorance about the depth of our ice and what could happen to you. So please don't do it, and if you see someone doing it, dissuade them immediately. But something to look forward to next time we're in here is Saturday. Many of you haven't experienced this, but one of the very colourful and exciting moments in chapel is when we invite the staff children to come in and they do their nativity pageant. It's a lot of fun. It's a little chaotic. No one knows quite what's going to happen. The Rev loses complete control of about 30 little children, but it's a great community event. Look forward to seeing you all here for it. There'll be a lot of laughter, and it's one of those little highlights to get us towards the end of term. So we're going to let the staff go. I'm going to keep the students seated. MCB and Henri, you might have some announcements. So let's let the staff go. Thanks very much, everyone. Look forward to seeing you in here on Saturday.